Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Little Life, and welcome to installment number 18 of Viewers Knives. These are all knives that are made by you guys, the wonderful and talented viewers of this channel. It is always my honor and privilege, first of all, to see the knives that you guys are making, and second of all, to share them with the rest of you. This is really cool, really fantastic to see what you guys are up to, so let's get right into it. The very first knife we'll look at this week is sent to me from Dominic, and Dominic is a 25-year-old knife maker from Slovakia. He says he really enjoys this channel and the work that I do, and he actually has his own YouTube channel as well, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Really like these blades he sent in, just fantastic creativity, some really nice looking knives, very original designs, and these just look fantastic, Dominic. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you for sharing your knives with us. Alright, next we're going to go to Knife from Bob, and he is a 15-year-old knife maker from North Carolina. He says that he's been inspired by this channel as well as Alex Steele, and that is so cool to hear. This is the very first knife he's made. He actually made it in his grandmother's barn using cheap Harbor Freight tools. Really fantastic looking knife. The steel that he used is 1080 G10 for the scales with brass liners. So Bob, this is just fantastic. It is so cool to see your work, and you know what, when I hear people trying to find places where they can make knives like in your grandmother's barn, I'm sure that is not the ideal location with all the, comforts and ergonomic workbenches and everything else, but this just proves to me, this just shows a great drive to make knives and get out and create. So very nicely done. Thank you so much for sending this in. Alright, next we're going to go to Jack, and he's a 17-year-old knife maker from Southern California. He's been making knives for about 5 months at the time of this email, and he's made 4 blades so far. These two he wanted to share his 2 most recent. Used black walnut for the scales for both of them. I'm not entirely sure what the steel is that he used, but this first little one here, what a great useful knife. Looks really comfortable. I like the brass pins there, and then this very large one. That looks like a really useful bush tool. Really great looking blade. So Jack, thank you for sending these in. Keep on making knives. I hope you keep on having a blast with it. And to another 15-year-old knife maker we go. Ethan is from Australia, and this is the 6th knife that he's made. He's been making knives for a few months, and I think this is a fantastic looking blade. There's no information as to what type of steel or handles he used, but those look like mosaic pins there almost, don't they? Either way, this is just a really great looking blade. I like the look of this, and Ethan, what a bright future you have. This is really cool to see. Thank you for sharing your knife with us. Alright, and another 15-year-old knife maker. This seems to be the episode of 15-year-old knife makers, which is really cool to see young people getting into this and getting interested in just building things with their hands. To me, that is so cool to see. So Barbara is a 15-year-old from Idaho, and she sent pictures of this knife. This is the first knife she's made, and she actually sold it yesterday at the time of this email, which was back in July. So this is a really great looking blade. I absolutely love it. Not too much information on it, but you know what? This looks really cool. Keep up the great work, Barbara. I hope you keep on making knives, and I'd love to see more of your work. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Alright, Aaron is a 47-year-old knife maker from New Zealand, and he said that after 47 years he discovered knife making and he finally has a hobby, so that is really cool to hear, and what a fine hobby to get into. He's sharing this picture here. This is the very first knife he's ever made, and obviously he made it from a file, and again, that is an excellent resource if you're looking for steel to make knives with. You have to do some work to it to get it to be usable and so you can shape it, but definitely great steel, gonna last a long time and hold a really great edge. I think this is a fantastic looking knife, and then he also sent pictures of this. This is the second knife that he's working on, and he's actually doing this one with his son. That is really cool to hear. I'm sure there's gonna be some fantastic memories made, and then at the end of it you'll end up with a wonderful knife. So Aaron, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I hope you and your son have a blast, and glad you found a wonderful hobby, and I hope you keep on enjoying it for years to come. Alright, next we're going to go to Sam, and he's a 16-year-old blacksmithing toolmaker from Kansas City, Missouri. He's been making knives for several years, and he wanted to share a few pictures of some of the stuff that he's made with us. Currently, he just has a 1x30 belt sander, and he's hoping to one day get a 2x72, but I think his work is absolutely fantastic. Also, he left a link to his Facebook page, and I'll leave that in the description below if I can figure it out. It's an incomplete link, but hopefully I can figure it out and put the proper link in there for you guys to check out. Absolutely fantastic work, Sam. Keep it up. I'm so excited to see this stuff from you, and it's absolutely inspiring to see. Thank you for sharing your work with us. Alright, next we're going to go to Sean, and he's a 29-year-old knife maker from Thunder Bay, Ontario. He's been making knives for about 2 years now, and he says he just can't get enough of it. That's really cool. He started with the stock removal process, and he's gone on to forging and figure out how to build a frame lock as well as a liner lock without a milling machine. That is pretty impressive. Actually, that's really impressive. Very cool to see. So these are great looking knives, Sean. Thank you so much for sharing these with us. Also, he has an Etsy shop, and I'll put a link to that in the description below as well. Sean, these are great looking blades. Thank you for sharing these with us. All right, next we'll go to Mark, and he's a 49-year-old knife maker, and he really enjoys this. This is the very first complete knife he's made, and he made it actually as a payment to a friend who did some welding to fix an anvil for his. So it's kind of cool to see a little trade of services back and forth, and what a fantastic looking knife. I sure hope the welds are incredibly beautiful and that it was a lot of work, because this is a great looking blade. Really like it. It looks like a very nice patterned Damascus there, and some brass bolsters, and also an end guard there. Mosaic pins. This is just a fantastic looking blade, Mark. Thank you for sharing this with us, and keep on making knives. Next, we'll look at this knife from Logan. This is a fantastic looking blade. Logan doesn't give too much information on the knife itself, where he's from or how old he is, but this is just a great looking blade. He says he really enjoys the channel and that it's helped him answer a lot of the questions that he was looking to get information on, so that is really, really cool to see. And this is just a great looking blade. I would love to own a knife like this. I think this just super, super great size and a lot of utility in this. This is a great looking blade, Logan. Thank you for sending this in. All right, next we're going to go to Roberto, and he is from Switzerland. He says, first of all, thank you so much for this channel. He says that if it weren't for this channel, he would never have started knife making, and that is absolutely amazing to hear. Truly humbling to think that, you know, I enjoy knife making. I'm just doing stuff that I enjoy and sharing it, and then somehow it inspires somebody else. It's incredible. It's really, really cool to hear that. So thank you, Roberto, so much for that. Okay, onto this knife. He used 01 tool steel, and it's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's hardened to roughly, he figures, about 63 HRC. He's got a satin finish on it, green G10 handle scales, and then actually he's got a bunch of other specs on the knife too. Let's read those off real quick. Overall length is 6 11/16 of an inch. The blade length is 2 3/4 of an inch. The knife weight is 5.6 ounces, and the sharpening angle is at 25 degrees. Really cool to hear all these specs on the knife too, because ultimately when you're going to buy a knife, you want to know a lot of the specifications of it, so it's actually really cool to see the pictures with the specs. The tools used for this project were an angle grinder, files, drill press, sandpaper, just a lot, and a homemade file jig, homemade forge, and a Lansky sharpening system. This blade came out fantastic. I absolutely love the finish of the G10, that nice satin, creamy, buttery look almost. This looks fantastic. Also, he's got a website. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. You can check it out. He shares his projects and his passion there. Roberto, thank you so much for sending this in to us, and thank you for the kind words on the channel. I'm truly humbled by it, and I sincerely appreciate it. Alright, you will never guess the age of this next maker we're going to look at. That's right, it's another 15-year-old. Franz is 15 years old, he's from Sweden. He's been making things, he's enjoyed making stuff since he was like 10. And that is so cool to see. He's sharing pictures of this, his very first locking knife. He's very proud of it because it was such a huge challenge and it works really well. I think this blade looks absolutely fantastic, Franz. Just incredible to think that, you know what, you could make this yourself. 15 years old, what a fantastic thing. You know, it's funny because the country I live in, a kid can't drive a car 15 years old, but yet these 15-year-old kids are making stuff like this, and just the attention to detail, the skill set, the decisions that have to be made to make a knife like this absolutely boosts confidence in future generations. So friends, thank you for sharing this. This is a great looking blade, and I'm so excited to see you making knives. Alright, Hunter sent this picture in. He says he really enjoys the channel. Thanks, Hunter, I appreciate that. And he says this is one of his favorite knives that he's made so far. He apologizes for the picture. It's kind of taken in a dark room, so he kind of had to edit it a little bit, but you can get the gist of it. You can see it's a really great looking blade, and I think this looks fantastic. Hunter, thank you so much for sending this in. And once again, we have another 15-year-old knife maker. Maxim is from Germany, and these are the first 2 knives he's ever made. He made these mostly just with hand files, and that is incredible. I know the amount of work that is involved with making a knife with just a file, and to do these 2 here, these are really good-looking blades, and man, I just think about all the hours and the hours that have been put into these. Maxim, be proud of these. These look absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much for sending these in. All right, let's stay in Germany for one more second. Dieter is a 46-year-oold knife maker from Germany. This is the first knife he's ever finished, and this looks absolutely fantastic. He used 02 steel for it, and the micarta, the paper micarta, he made himself, and he says he's very proud of it. I would say absolutely. This knife has so many facets and details and little tiny things that add so much work, and for this to be your very first knife, I mean, this is absolutely amazing. So Dieter, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I can't wait to see what your 4th and 5th and 10th knife are going to look like, because this one looks absolutely fantastic. Alright, Christian is from Slovenia. He's a medicine student, and this knife he actually made as a birthday present for his girlfriend. It's the very first one he's ever made, and he did this thing all with hand tools and kind of basically whatever resources he could find around him. 01 tool steel, he heat treated it in a grill and tempered it in the oven. The scales are, ooh dear, I'm going to ruin this one, so I'm just going to spell it out. It's ACAIA. Yeah, I don't know. Wood, and he used brass pins. The sheath was also the first ones he's ever made, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic. He says that YouTube has been an excellent resource for him. All the knife making channels you can think of, from Walter Soros to Golf Customs to this channel as well as others. So thank you for that. Glad these videos help you guys out, and it is really cool to see what you're making. I'm sure your girlfriend appreciated this, and it was an awesome birthday present to her. Thank you for sharing it with us. Alright, Nate is from South Carolina, and he's sending some pictures of some of the knives that he's made recently. These are really great looking blades, and one thing he mentions is that he finds knife making to be very therapeutic, and I absolutely agree with that. He says it's so enjoyable. I totally get that, and it's really cool to see other people kind of enjoying the same aspects of knife making that I enjoy about it as well. So we've got some really great blades here. I'll also put a link in the description below to his Facebook page where you can check out more of his work. But Nate from Hurricane Mountain Forge, thank you so much for sending these in. These are fantastic looking knives. Next, we're going to go to some knives made by Noah, and he had sent some pictures in previously, and he said that since that time, he's actually been backlogged, and he's just slam busy with knife orders right now, and he's truly loving this business. That is really cool to hear. These are great looking blades, Noah, and you know what? I sure hope you continue to enjoy the business of being a knife maker, and keep making these wonderful, useful tools. These are great looking blades. Thank you so much for sharing these with us. Alright, Ethan is a knife maker from Fort McMurray, Alberta, and he actually made his own 2x72 belt grinder based on Jeremy Schmidt's design. I've actually seen that video. It's a really cool looking belt grinder, so that is cool to hear. And this knife that he made here, his first one, is he made this with 01 tool steel. He used walnut for the scales with brass pins. I think this is a fantastic looking blade. So Ethan, really cool to hear another knife maker and see knives coming out of Alberta. And you know what? Keep up the great work. Keep having fun with it. It is a blast. Alright guys, we're going to wrap up this edition of Viewers Knives with a blade from Russell. Russell is a 34-year-old soldier from Cape Breton, currently living in New Brunswick, and he's been following my channel for a while, finds a lot of this information, as well as the information on other knife making channels on YouTube to have been very helpful. This is the third knife that he's made. Part of it's from an old file, and the handle is Purple Heart, and he used brazing rod for the pins. This is a fantastic looking blade, and just the level of execution, the fit and finish with your hand satin on there, what a fantastic looking blade. So Russell, first of all, thank you so much for your service to our country, much appreciated, and thank you for sending this knife in. This is really cool to see. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Viewers Knives. Again, it is such an honor for me to be able to share with other people the knives that you guys are making and to see them for myself. It is so interesting. If you'd like to have your knife featured on this channel, just email me, jeremy@homesteadknives.com. But please keep in mind, guys, I've got probably over 300 knives that are in the queue, and as I receive the email, I will feature the knife. So the knives that you're seeing on this episode, which is airing late October, these are actually what I received late in July. So there is a bit of a backlog, but we will get them featured on this channel, and just it's so cool, so inspirational to see what you guys are doing, hear the stories behind the knives, and just kind of grow and connect us with other makers from all over the world. If you like this video, guys, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to show your support for other makers in here. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them below, and thank you guys so much for watching. Cheers.